Hello there, welcome to this WIX tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to display your search results or your filter in a new page or in a search result page. So as you can see, I have my repeater all set out, displaying 3 items per page, and you can just paginate or move through any of the pages that shows you what items are being displayed. And the most important thing here is you can actually go ahead to search for an item using a drop down, or you can search using a search bar. And then I'm going to just choose one of these, and I'm going to go ahead to click on the search. Notice how that loads, and then it displays on a kind of similar page that already filters my selection. So I have French selected, and as you can see, all items being displayed are only French cuisines. All right, so this is what I wanted to achieve. And when I choose another option, Italian for example, and search, that also displays all items containing only Italian cuisines. And this is exactly what I really wanted. And finally, what you can do is you can combine these two values together. So let's say you want to search for something else. Currently, this search bar only searches the location, and in this case I have worldwide and I have London. So I'm going to choose London in this case, and then I'm going to click on the search again. So you can notice that we have an option that only has Italian and London. So this has Italian and then the London as a location. You can go ahead to change the field key that filters or searches your item by the title of the item, and that will actually make more sense. So I wanted to use the location because I want to display multiple items. And let's go over here. You can see I have worldwide selected and Italian selected, and you can see that all items being displayed are displaying the worldwide as a location and also Italian as a cuisine. So this is exactly what I wanted to achieve, and I'm going to show you how to add this, and also this animation that happens when you move between pages and when you hover over your repeater. Okay, and finally I want to show you, before we move into the code, I want to show you what happens when you refresh the page. Your filter still stays and everything kind of seems exactly as they were. This is because WIX is using your browser's storage, which is the session storage, to make sure that your data is being saved until you exit the website or you exit the browser. If you want your site visitors to still hold the data for as long as possible, even when they close the browser, you can use the local storage. And you can go over here at the WIX storage API. You can see the different storage options that we have. The first one is local storage, which does not expire at all. Okay, it stays active for as long as possible. But the session storage expires when the user closes the website or closes the browser. Okay, and then we have the memory data, which is available for as long as the site visitor does not refresh or close the page. I prefer to use this session because even when the user refreshes this page, let's assume that there is an error in the page and they want to refresh, then the filter should still be available. Okay, so you can choose the one that you best prefer, but the good thing and lucky thing is that they are just about the same process. Okay, you just need to follow through some of the steps that I'll be showing you in the code. And then when you click on this reset filter and then you refresh your page, you're going to notice that none of the selections are being displayed, and then the repeater is back to default. Okay, that's because that reset filter icon actually clears the data from the storage and then restores all our items from the database as they were. Okay, so let's jump into the website. So here in the website, you can see I'm here in the home page. Before we go into the code and other items, I'm going to show you how to set up this animation when you paginate or change your pagination, and also when you hover, you see how that effects on the repeater works. So what you need to do here is you need to click on the box which is on the container on your repeater. So next you need to go over here to animation, and then you choose the animation that you like. Okay, so you choose the one that best suits your design, and I think I prefer to use the slide-in. Okay, that is what I'm currently using. You can go ahead to customize that, choose where you want that to slide in from. You want to choose right, and you can play that and see how that works, or you want to choose how much it actually slides in. Okay, so you can do all these, you can play around with that, how much time you want to have it displayed, how much time you want it to slide in, or you want it to only animate once. Okay, so I use the slide in, and I like it to slide in from the left. Okay, if you preview that, you can see that works fine. So you can choose other ones that makes more sense to you. And finally, we have the hover. Now you're going to click on the get started, and right here you're going to see an option which is called choose effect. So you're going to go over here and choose the effect that you want. So when the user actually hovers, is it going to grow? So this means that it's going to actually zoom out, or the shrink is going to zoom in. And we have the skew, which kind of bends over, which is what I'm actually making use of. And you can go ahead to choose, or you want it to rotate. I think this is the rotate, this is rotate. So you can actually go ahead to use the skew, or you can combine all of the effects together. And you can go ahead to also customize and choose how you want that to rotate. So do you want that to skew to horizontally, or you want that to skew vertically? So you can choose all of these, and you can choose how many degrees you want that to skew by. And I think that is it. So you can just go ahead to play around with these tools, and this actually makes your website look very modern. Okay, so enough with the design, and we're going to head into the main code, which I'm going to walk you through. All right, so before we get into the code, I added two filter or search elements. The first one is the drop down, which I've gone ahead to add my options, and I have only two options for the cuisine. We have French and we have Italian. When you click on this icon over here, you can see we have the option to add the label. So the label doesn't really matter at all. This is what the user sees when they click on to choose an option. And then we have the value. This is the most important part, because this is what the code works with. And also importantly, the value is what is in your database. So you need to go to your database and find the exact keyword or item that you're trying to filter with. And then you need to make sure it's exactly the same. It is also case sensitive. Okay, so that's what I did. I added my options, and I added my search bar, and I have a search button. As you can see, it is quite gradient. You can go ahead to click on the design, and you can go over here and choose on the background fill. And when you click on the customize, you can choose if you want the color, or you want a gradient, or you want to use an image. So I use the gradient. You can also play around with this. And then I have a clear filter button that allows you to reset all these items back to default. Before we go into the code, you need to make sure that you turn on your dev mode from right over here. So turn that on, and then you can expand or maximize your code panel. So right here in the code, you can see we have two libraries. We have the WIX storage, and then we have the WIX location. The WIX storage is where we indicate what kind of memory or storage that we want to make use of. Here I'm making use of the session storage, because that will be active as long as the browser is still open, or as long as the tab or website is still open, even when you refresh the page. Okay, and this is where you actually need to change if you want to use your local storage or the memory. Just go ahead and replace this with local, or replace that with memory. So you can just go over here, and then you can just go ahead and type in local, or you can go ahead and type in memory. Okay, so when you chose the memory, you can find here that there are errors, so you need to replace this also with memory. So let's go ahead and do memory. You can see that fixes the problem, and you can also go ahead to do memory here, and that fixes the problem. Or if you want to use local, for example, you can go ahead to use local, and you're going to see we have more errors. So you're also going to make sure that you go into your code and choose make sure that you select local, and also for this option, go ahead to choose local. Okay, so that is just how that works. So I want to make sure I use my session storage, because that is what I want to use. So you can go ahead to read. I'm going to attach a link to this. Go ahead to read the one that best works for you, and the process is exactly the same. You just need to change what the name indicates. All right, so what this does right here, we have the button on click. So when the user clicks on the button, what we want to do is to set the item, or to save the item into our storage. And inside you can find we have two parameters, and the first parameter is an ID. Okay, this ID is called a key, and it is very important, because when we're going to retrieve the data, we don't need to type all of this inside again. We only need to call this ID, and that ID holds whatever else is here. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the drop down value, and the drop down value, I have a drop down over here. So this is drop down 1. All we need to do is whatever value the user has selected will be saved here. And more importantly, you can change this ID to whatever you want, whatever brand or whatever name that you're working with. So if you're into the news and blog categories, you can go ahead to call these blog categories or categories, whatever you want to name that. It's up to you and it's completely fine. Okay, and then we have the final one, which is for the search bar. As you can see, I have a search bar over here, and you can see the ID is called search bar. So when we maximize, you can change the ID over here, the properties panel. If you can't find this option, click on this icon over here and it's going to be displayed. Okay, so we're also going to save the value of our search bar inside of this key, which also you can change to whatever you're working with. And then finally, when the user clicks on the button, we want to bring them to a different page, and this is the search result page. Now this search result page, you can see I have added the URL of the page link. So in my case, this is my search page. So head over to the URL there and then go ahead to copy that and bring it over here. So paste that into this location. And then finally, we have the clear filter button, which, as you can see, the icon over here is actually going to clear or restore all the values back to default. Okay, so as you can see, we have is going to bring back this to the default, and also it's going to hide itself when clicked on. So ideally, what this page does is just to collect the user inputs and saves them into the session storage. So then when we move to our search result page, that is where the session or the data is going to be retrieved from the session storage and filter the repeater with it. Okay, so we have exactly the same setup for everything, but then we have our code, which is much more than we have in our previous page. And I'm going to walk you through this. It's not difficult at all. Okay, so instead of having just 2 libraries, we have 3, because now we are going to actually perform a filter function by retrieving the data from our database. That's why we're making use of the WIX data. And then here inside of our ready function, we are going to retrieve or get the items that we have saved in our session. So for our search results, our search bar, we have the value. We want to save or set the value of our search result to whatever data or value that we have collected from our home page. Remember that this is the ID. You don't need to add another value anymore. The ID holds the value, so it's going to remember what value that you have added, and then all you need to do is just to get the ID of that particular item. So the value of our search bar now is going to be set to the value that the user has selected in the home page or added or imputed in the home page. Same thing goes for the drop down. The whatever value that will be selected is whatever value the user has selected from the home page. So that is the reason why when I search for French, for example, and I click on search, you're going to find that we have French selected. And when we click on Italian, we're going to have Italian selected. Okay, and then when we click on London, for example, or type in the keyword London, you're going to see that we have all this selected into our element. But this does not filter the element. What filters the element is what we're going to discuss next inside of this section. Now this is pretty easy. You don't have to worry about that. I have already a tutorial that shows you how to add multiple drop down filter into your WIX website. You can go ahead to check them out. That is just all this does here. Now, instead of using the value of our element, we are actually getting the value that the user has saved in the session storage. So here we are getting the item using the key or the ID that the user has saved it to. Okay, and here we also have the ID also for our search bar. Okay, so now let's assume you have multiple items and you want to repeat this section. Just go ahead to copy up till this point and make sure you just leave one of the parentheses. Just copy that, and then you're just going to click one line and paste. You can do that for as many items as you have. Okay, I only have 2, so I'm going to leave it at just 2 items. All right, so now we're done with the filter and the search part of the tutorial. Now this is just all you need to do. This is just all what this section does. The item is being retrieved, the repeater is being filtered, and then we move on. That's just all we do. And then we have another part of this page that also looks like the home page. Since it's the search result page, the user should also be able to search result from there, from the same page. So what we did also is when the user clicks on the search button, which is right over here, we are also going to save whatever value the user has selected. And we are also going to bring them back to the same page, which is the search result page. And that is the reason why the website kind of appears like it's loading, because we added this link that makes it look like it's an external link, and this makes it look as if it's going to a new page. Okay, so you can go ahead to check out the Wix location. So right over here you can see the Wix location. You can go ahead to check out these the one on the tow method. So you can check over here to see how to link to pages inside of your website or items inside of your website. So I prefer leaving mine this way because it makes the page load appears as if it's loading. For example, when I click on search, you see it appears as if it's loading, which is what Wix does not have. But this kind of fixes the problem a little bit, and I kind of like this process. Okay, finally, when the user actually tries to change the page in the repeater to a different page, I want them to be scrolled back to the top. And that's the reason why, if you see, let's clear this, for example, and then click only search. Now we have all items displaying French, and when we click on that, you see that brings the page back to the top. And this is a very clean way. And if you notice, I have an anchor right over here. You can add an anchor when you head to the add, and then to the menu and anchor, and then here the anchor, just drag and drop this element to your page, to whatever location you want it to scroll up to. Okay, so for mine, I left mine right here. And what I did is I added an on-click event to my pagination bar. And then I added the scroll to function to my anchor. So whenever the user clicks on the pagination bar, it's going to scroll them up to where my anchor is being saved. It's being located. Okay, so you can see that it's being located up there. This is just a user interaction process I've added just to make the flow of this website look very clean. And finally, we have the clear filter. Now, remember when I mentioned earlier that when you click on this and then you refresh the page, nothing is being displayed here, and the repeater is back to default. Okay, as if there was nothing filtered already. Okay, so this is what this does. What this does is that it deletes the item from the session storage, and it also refreshes our data set. So from right here, we're going to clear whatever value we have in our filter and search elements, and then we are also going to remove. As you can see, we use the remove method. We remove these items which contains this ID from our session storage. So this is like deleting it, and then we're also going to hide this icon when it's being clicked, and then we are also going to use the Wix set filter to filter all the items being connected to our data, to our repeater. Okay, so this is just all the tutorial is all about. You need two pages, the main page, and then we have the search result page. Okay, so this really makes a lot of sense. And before we end this tutorial, I'm going to show you something really quickly. So let's say we click on this cuisine. Let's select an option, let's say French, and then we search. Now the item has been saved, and since this is the search results page, that means that the filter is going to already filter. But when you right click on your browser, if you're using Chrome, this is Chrome, just go to inspect, and then you're going to head over to the application. And then right there in the application, you're going to find something called the session storage. And you're going to expand that, and then click on the URL. You're going to find the key and the value. And then you're going to find the key also for our search, and you can see the value is empty. Okay, so this is where it's been saved. It's been saved in your browser, and whenever the page loads, it's going to retrieve this value and then input it in wherever you want it to be inserted. Now let's go ahead to add London, for example, and then we search. Okay, so now let's head back into inspect, and then back to application, and back to our session. You can see now we have two values which are being selected. Here we have French, and then we have London. So we have the key that we've used to save it, and then we have the value. We have the key for the search, and then we have the value in the search. Okay, so when we clear, let's say we click on this. Now the item has been cleared. Let's head back to the inspect, and then let's go back to application. You can see that we have nothing saved because these whatever we have saved before has been removed. Okay, so this is how it works. It saves in your user browser, so you don't have to worry about the space. It is just for them and them alone. Alright, so I hope you did enjoy this tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It really helps a lot in exposing the videos to many Wixers around the world, and also give it a thumbs up if you really enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to comment in the comment section, and the link to this tutorial's code and also the blog and this page is in the description below. You can also find it in the comment section. I have pinned the comment section link to these websites and all relevant websites. Alright, so thank you very much and see you in the next tutorial.